Well, hello and welcome to The Wrap. This is a show rounding up all things Zwift from the last week. We talk racing, we talk events, we talk action. We're live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and X, and we're usually live at about 11 p.m. Central Time, USA, and 5 p.m. NZT. But this week we had a little bit of a clock change, so it is going to be midnight my time. And I think still 5 p.m. NZT because I'm in the US of A and Anna is in New Zealand. I'm Nathan Guerra. Anna Russell sat next to me virtually, obviously. And this is episode number 86. It is Wednesday. Well, it's Thursday, March 14th. And what are we talking about in this episode number 86? We're talking Zwift games, how it was absolutely epic in the epic race and how it all played out. Look forward to this weekend on the final climbing race in the Zwift games for the Alpe d'Huez Zwift. We're going to be talking about what is the best in-game garage economy systems that we might be able to imagine up and how that plays into this big spin slot machine that will be a huge topic today, as well as it seems to be a big hit with the Zwifters, but also brings up some ideas about in-game economies, value, and a whole nother side of Zwift that I think a lot of people enjoy, and kind of how this podcast kicked off with the fashion show originally on ZCL. Thank you so much to the amazing Anna Russell, and we'll talk about what we've been up to the last week. We'll talk about our garage pick, which is the new super slow, but yet still super amazing tri-spoke disc wheels, and all other fun Zwift things. Jump into chat as well. We do watch chat as we are live and check out the comments. This is also a podcast. You can download the audio version of The Wrap and all the episodes anywhere that you do download your podcast. Just search The Wrap and Zwift. It should show up real quickly. Or head on over to zwiftcommunitylive.com/podcast and you'll find all the episodes listed there as well, all 86 of them. So plenty. Multiply that by 2 or 3, and it's probably the number of hours that we could either torture or bless your ears, depending on how you feel about us. So first and foremost, as always, we're going to probably have a long conversation about what the heck Anna's been up to. I would have thought that this had something to do with crit racing. From what I'm hearing, not so much, but if you are watching live, you'll see that Anna, I don't know if you can see the Vicodin, but maybe there's some Vicodin involved here, but most likely she has, I think, dislocated a shoulder and fractured. Is that correct, Anna?
Yeah, I wish that this could have been from the crit racing that I had been planning to do, or I wish it was from mountain biking, as Mike has come in to the chat with as well, or any vast array of fun things that could have been. But I decided to play soccer with my son and all his friends v me before school yesterday. And one of the kids dared to say to me, "I think Max's dad is better than you at soccer." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And so then I just went, well, I'm just going to go full noise on you guys. I'm not going to hold back. And this is what happened. I dislocated and fractured my shoulder.
Ouch.
Yeah,
I can relate. Anna, I gotta say I can relate that it was moving day like 5 years ago, and I thought, man, Kyle thinks my oldest son, he really thinks he's good at soccer. Oof, man, my ankle has not been the same since that day. Just so you know, I have a very similar story to this, and just this year is the first time I haven't thought about that ankle in a different way, actually. But once in a while, it still pops up if I'm pedaling wrong. So I can relate on the soccer injury and young kids who think they're good at soccer. Oh yeah, full noise on my ankle. Oh man. So it sounds like this is kind of a recurring one though, a little bit. And you got some things you're looking forward to here.
Yeah, thank you to Gabby, who was, she's done hers and had surgery, because I'm going to have to go have surgery because it's the fourth one. I think the first one I was snowboarding in the States, and there was no way I was living there, and there was no way I was getting surgery as a New Zealander in the States because I don't have like a spare 100K sitting around. But then I did it surfing, which was super scary because, you know, you're out surfing and then you can't swim really that well. So that was a bit nut. But then this one, the last one was putting on a jacket, and this one was swinging my arm back to take like a huge kick. So Yeah. Anyway, off into surgery, but it's fine. It's yeah, it'll be all good. I can still cycle, hopefully, for most of it. So that is totally
Have you
fine.
tried yet?
Um,
Have you tried to be on the bike yet?
No, I want to get the MRI just in case because I'm like, I just don't want to like, if they're like, oh, whoa, this is really bad, then I won't. So I'll wait till I have the MRI and then I'll get back on. But it's killing me because the big spin is on, which we'll talk about later. And I desperately want to spin around and get something. But other than that, I did the Zwift Games Elite race on Monday, my time.
You
And I
killed
gotta
it.
say, like,
You killed
it
it.
was, well, I didn't kill it, but it was fun. Like,
You
it was
were with
good.
the leaders as but like until things really popped off, you were there.
Oh,
I mean, you were really
well,
there.
like I felt great. Like we're going up jungle, like that climb that, and we'll go into the elite racing sort of how it played out. But like the jungle bit, I was a bit nervous about because I was like, "Oof, that's going to kick off." It didn't really kick off. I was like, "Okay," and then it kicked off at a really odd time, like going into Titans, like over the bridge into Titans, and that's where the split was made. And I made the split, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is great! Like I've made the split. I'll make it to the end with this lead group." But it kicked off on the Titans reverse and man, like my quads, they're still sore from that race. Like I got up out of the saddle. My strategy was for those big efforts to just grind a big gear up out of the saddle. And I was like, man. And we finished that last bit. And there was like a group of like 3 or 4 of us. M. Nyquist was with me. And then another, we're trying to catch up to Alice Lethbridge and the group. I was like, my legs have never been this sore before, like on a Zwift race. So it was like, I know it's called epic, but it was epic. It was awesome to race. I know you do it with the KISS 100 a lot, but I've never really raced a, 80 plus K race on Zwift. And it was really cool. Like I really enjoyed it. There was enough time in between to chat to my teammates. The hard bits were hard. It was a lot of fun. And I also was really stoked to see some Elperson de Koenig pro riders in there. I was just like, is it Puck Peters? But it wasn't. But it was very like exciting to have them there too. It just felt really cool.
Yeah, very cool. The reality of how long that was and the way it was tactically played out, I think it was one of those situations where the mind is so, because Gabby said the same thing, that she was starting to cramp. Kristen Kolchinski said that she was starting to have some cramps in the final. I mean, there was a lot of cramps going on. But like, I think that the reality of the pressure of an epic elite race like that puts you into focus mode where you don't really realize how hard the tempo is. But nobody attacked in a way that put it outside of a low overall threshold tempo effort. So it was almost like doing SST for like the entirety of the first half of the race. So then the reality of the steady state kicks in when it's really time to go though. Right?
Yeah.
So and if anyone who's done the real SST work, they'll know what I mean, where it's like you get to the end of that 2 hours and you're donezo. Like sprinting is how?
I know. Like my normalized power for 2 hours, 10 minutes was 210 watts, which for me is like pretty high SST work. And but that's why I liked it. I felt like I came into my own in the endurance part, like I just felt it's a lot more similar to triathlon where you're doing 2.5 hours time trial effort on the bike and it just hurts. But with triathlon, you don't have the attacks on top of it. And when I got to that last, attack, I was like, whoo. But then what was frustrating is I got to the top and I could still push 4 to 4.5 watts a kg all the way to the last climb. So the threshold I could hold for ages, that felt awesome, but be able to kick over that. And that's when you watch pro riders, right? You watch like Mathieu van der Poel or Lotte Kopecky, they can hold threshold forever. So can everyone on that peloton probably. But when it matters, they can like go boom, next level off that. And I think that's, that was impressive watching those ladies at the front.
Yeah, race winning moves are definitely the anaerobic. It's where you burn all the glycogen and why glycogen storage and supplementing as well as becoming as efficient as possible through training and is what it's all about when it comes to winning races in bike racing specifically. Most of the time, in most types of bike racing, there is some bike racing where it is about just higher SST. Like there are some, like if you're Lachlan Morton and you're trying to go across all of the freaking mountains in the United States, well, that's a whole nother story. But So let's go right on into it, because for me, what I've been up to, besides, I mean, on my own fitness journey, Zwifting life, kind of funny is I'm way into everything we're going to talk about today. So I've been doing Big Spin. I absolutely loved doing commentary next to Hannah Walker as well as Max Stevens this past weekend. I felt like Zwift have really done an amazing job actually on the broadcast as well as the Zwift games setup here. The homework has been done, I feel like, in a lot of ways where it's just like showed up and like, B plus to A plus. I don't know about A plus. To give an A plus, we'd have to go pretty amazing. But I mean, really, really well done across the board, I would say, on the Zwift games. And I really have been enjoying just being involved in the whole productions of it, as well as some of the, obviously I also am pretty committed here as Gabby's coach and husband. And so there's that as well, where it's a pretty big focus in the house right now. But, as far as like, so my involvement is just commentary and then trying to help, as much as I possibly can to coach Gabby until I go into, all right, I'm focused here just on commentary and productions at this point. And I've actually removed myself, because we tried in the past to do something where I could kind of still be involved, but it's no more. Like I just hand off to like find another group, find somebody else to chat with you during, because I just shut off and just talk only to the productions and the commentary at that point. You know what I mean? I can't really. And then afterwards, I'm like, I watch it and I try, and people are like, Nathan, you can still have a little bit of like pull toward that's your wife. And I have a switch in my head. Like I've even seen comments like Nathan, it's okay not to be so professional, but like I literally have a switch that goes off in my head that checks any kind of personal involvement or interests and just goes talk to what's happening in the racing. And then I gotta admit, there is even a little bit of a like in the back of my tongue, I would say where I locate it, that goes, that's your wife. And you just need to make sure that that's not why you're saying what you're saying right now. You know what I mean? Like there's a part of me, and then I go on the moment that I like the little check mark goes off in my head. Like it's a split second thing that happens, but it goes off in my head that says, yes, you would say that about anybody. And then I just continue on, or I don't, And so
I think like the only thing you have to worry about is that because you've got that in the back of your mind, that you don't overcompensate and not talk about it racing at all.
Yeah, totally. And so I think I have at times, I think, allowed others then too. You know what I mean? Like if they don't, then I will highlight something that Gabrielle is doing or something. If I notice that they maybe missed something, or I don't know, if something had gone down that maybe like she was owed some sort of credit, you know what I mean, to something that happened in the in the race or something. But there is a check in me a little bit, like because there was obviously excitement, and like the coach in me like wanted to come out at a certain moment during that race to be like, do this now, like second go, and it was totally like, but instead, actually what's funny is that energy turned into then cheering for everybody in the whole situation. Because some of the excitement that was coming out was for Gabby actually, but then it like swapped into all four of the riders at the front actually. And then I just like hyped everybody at the front.
Well, which is awesome. I mean, I tried to watch the front while I was in the race. So I saw them finish, but without your commentary in my head. So I was just like, oh, that's so exciting. But I guess, should we get into, I mean, we're talking about the women's race. So in general, like I think the broadcasting on this has gone like a step above. Like I find it very engaging and very interesting. And the player highlights, rider highlights looks great. I mentioned that last week. I thought this week the preems over Titans was such a good idea. I'd almost say like just do more of that as well, because it just, even as a rider in the pack, it just made it so exciting. Like I remember going up Titans, I was like, oof, I'm in fifth. Should I just like
it looked like you might be going. I saw you on both preems at a certain moment. Like, is that her move? I think Anna's thinking right now. And I was actually going to say something. And I got to say, Anna, like when I saw you on camera, I could tell you were going good. I could tell. I was like,
It felt
wow.
good.
Yeah, I could see it in your eyes. I could see it in the way that you were like even kind of going on the bike. Like you can just feel when somebody's body language says there's like aggression. There's a little bit of like, I'm taking this on and aiming really well at the moment versus like deflated in any way. You had it was totally like on top of it the whole time. So that was really cool to see.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was fun. Like I said, I think just that long race style I like because you've got enough time to kind of, I mean, obviously the race started like this is where I was like, oh, game on. Because you started by going up the Zwift KQOM, the steep side. And I just kind of like was going up out of the saddle, was like, okay, cool. That was pretty good. Like no one kicked off and made that crazy. But then on our chat, someone was like, man, that was hard. I was like, okay, it's one of those days. The legs are feeling all right. So that kind of gave the confidence. But yeah, I think the preems were like fantastic. I think the flat section on the coast may have needed something to like kind of
spice it up a little bit.
Spice it up a little bit because it kind of for us, I don't know.
And plus, both
like
preems were not sprint preems; they were climb preems. So it would have been nice.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, and if there wasn't more budget, like you could have maybe had like two other green, like have two green jersey spots and two KQM spots, and then split it up to 500 each or something. You know, like that could have been because there was enough space for that, maybe. So that is a good but that's a learning. That's just a learning. Like, hey, when you have these long drawn out sections, throw something in there, and it's something more for a pure sprinter to go after throughout the entirety of the epic.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought the jungle climb out was. I don't know about the men's. I could see in the men's there are a couple who got away, but it kind of maybe was a bit similar to ours in the women's where it didn't kick off. Now, I don't know why, because I thought that would have been a great place to kick off. I don't know if you have any insight as to why you think it didn't.
In the first time over the top? The first time?
No. The jungle, the dirt climb.
Oh, the jungle. Sorry. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's because it went into the bypass. So it kind of went into a rolling terrain. So I was like, if you manage to get away, it might be a bit tricky to stay away over there. Or maybe it was just the draft the climb is so draftable.
The level is so high and the draft is there. I think that's really what it is. I really think it's just that the level is so high that even in the classics, a lot of times on the ones that that aren't quite that hard, you get these larger packs toward the end, and then it starts going off just from the reality of how long the race is. So, I think that it just wasn't hard enough for the reality of how strong Zwifters are now at this point at the elite level.
Yeah. And then I found a really good way to ride Titans Grove and the S's now that I feel like I can recover in those sections, which has been really great.
See, and that's why you needed a sprint on the other side of the S's the first time.
I know, right?
If there would have been a sprint, because if you just held on long enough, you could use, there were enough sprints. I just got to say it one more time. Like I was trying to think it out, like the coast, or you could just put two on the coast, but like the coast.
Yeah.
And then one time through the S's could have been good sprint banners for some extra preems. All right. Sorry for interrupting there. Just wanted to throw that in.
We had James Barnes on the show. Maybe it was like 6 months ago when we had him on, and we're talking about a Richmond course in ZRL and how you approach the Libby Hill climb. And it's just completely changed the way I approach those rolling segments, like in Titans and the S's, that has made it so good to ride now. So before, I used to get to the top of the little roller, get up out of the saddle and push really hard to get momentum for the down. But now I realized I was kind of doing it the wrong way around. Now on the down, I really pull up the power and the cadence, and then I get all the momentum up to the top, and I don't have to put in any hard pedal strokes anymore.
You don't even really have to work. You don't even really have to you can just use the pack through the whole thing almost with just little tempo efforts.
So it's just made riding those areas
and you probably
so much
found
better.
You probably found yourself at the front a lot, then like doubling up. Like it wasn't just like you were like using too much power over the top of those. Then you found yourself in the front, pushed backwards, and then trying to jump back on. So it was like this horrible front to back all the time. Whereas now you just kind of smoothly roll through if you can time things correctly. Now, if somebody really kicks off at the front, then you turn into a little bit, but even then you can kind of roll through, but it's just more of a threshold effort rather than a tempo effort though. So that's so cool to hear that you figured that one out. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that made it a bit easier. And then I think, I mean, I wasn't there with that group of 15 or whatever, or 20 at the finish, but again, like great finish to finish up the steep part of the KOM. I saved my feather all the way to the end.
That's the way to do it. I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not in that top group, but I still want to come like top 30. And I was with a group that was, could be top 30. So yeah, it was great. And I saw the winners saved feathers, right?
Yes. Everybody there saved feathers. And I do need to, now we did get some feedback actually that race analysis was extremely appreciated actually when we went back and looked at what actually happened. And so there is one section I definitely want to talk about where at the end of the race, up the climb, there was some pack dynamic, some really interesting pack dynamics things that played out. And Gabby and I went over, did some like play-by-play post-race looks at what actually ended up taking place on that final climb. And I just want to highlight this here real quickly as just a look. I actually have the big spin up here to show how to do the hack.
Of course
we're gonna well, I was actually gonna late join right before this and then jump on Gabby's bike real quick and just spin the last 3 kilometers for the hack. But we'll talk about that hack in a second. This is the last 1.2 kilometers of the race right now. We actually see the Albacete Phoenix rider coming up here, that new rider that I don't know who this was. Kolinich here with an amazing late catch goes right over the top. Now, this wasn't actually anything to be worried about. It actually caused Stephanie Sidlick and Miralee Bruni here to push a little bit more. I think that Sidlick was actually setting up, if you look at the watts per kilogram, I think Sidlick is actually setting up Bates for her attack. That's what it looks like to me. Is Stephanie Sidlick pushed real hard right up to this point. Then you can see Lizzie Brooke. Now there's Sidlick to the front. That's the coalition rider. It's actually not Lou Bates. Now Lou Bates threw though over the top at that moment. Well, maybe that was Lou Bates. Excuse me on that. But Sidlick was leading out Bates, it looked like. Gabby responds here real quickly. Now, I want you guys everybody to watch this. Bates is essentially lead out. She's not meaning to be a lead out, but essentially she is just meaning to, is trying to break everybody with the usual Lou Bates move. Catherine Furr, who wins the race, is further back, but actually she times things fairly well here. She does have to put out a little bit extra, but then finds herself on the back of Guerra and Kolchinsky, which is the perfect place to be right here because Guerra and Kolchinsky, this is a fourth wheel best draft that Furr actually has at this moment. Then at this moment, she kicks up to 8 watts per kilogram in order to gain speed. And right here, watch the timing of the differentiation. Now, this is a quick look back at strength line accident, I think. Then Furr's second wheel, the data on the right-hand side is actually a little bit behind. It's not actually it's in-game data that transfers through other places and then ends up on the side. That's why it's always just a little bit behind, actually. But so Guerra is actually not in the placing that you're seeing on the right-hand side. This is actually where Furr is, and that's a couple seconds ago where Furr actually backed off. I could actually bring in Gabby's first-person point of view from her stream, and what you'll see is something a little bit different actually about how that played out. But let's go ahead and watch it through here from the live camera from the stream. Kolchinsky and Guerra are actually fighting behind for Furr's wheel. And that is that is the. I'm not saying that Guerra could have won, but her opportunity to win goes away here at this moment right here. I think Catherine probably still had the win with the amount of kick we see over the top, but Guerra actually ends up battling with Kristen, and Kristen, knowingly or unknowingly, plays the amazing teammate, and it's kind of like shutting the door in the final Ks of a sprint or something like that. Because if we get a good camera view, watch this. Gabriella is putting out way more watts, way more than Kristen, but not going by absolutely stuck. She actually throws down 8.4 watts per kilogram, more than for all the way through here. That's a sprint that could have won the race perhaps, but it's already kicked off. Then she has to kick again to try and go by Bates and Furr's wheel. The race for Guerra, now this is as obviously as a coach who might be a little bit biased, and I completely admit all that, but like my perspective for this is that what happens on this right here, I'm just going to go back I wonder if I can go back just a tad. Here it is, right here, this moment. Guerra backs off the 6.5 right here at this moment. You can see first person point of view. Furr is at 5.5. But right here, you can see the early go from, and Kristen's already going to 6.6 right there on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
That's the moment Kristen grabs the wheel, and Guerra's not at 5. Now, see Furr 8, it's too late. It's already done. Kristen's on your right-hand side. The wheel's gone. And so what had to happen there is the moment, there had to be a fight for her wheel just a little bit earlier. I don't know if it was even possible. Maybe Bates should have been the wheel she was fighting for with Catherine. And then at that point, they could have battled it out together. I hope that makes sense as far as the analysis. And this is from a coach's analysis. Of course, Catherine, amazing all the way from bottom to the top, and ends up taking the win on the day with just amazing power and amazing tactics as well as far as Zwiftcraft, because she played it absolutely perfectly all the way through to the top if you watch it the way that it went down there. But I want to get your reaction to, like, what do you think about that? I mean, that's some crazy tactics that play out that is, because when it comes down to like 1%, 0.5% difference between athletes, those kinds of tactics are what are going to make it happen.
Honestly, like I've been watching a lot of in real life racing lately, and I think the first part when you said with what Lou Bates was doing is very similar to Kasia Niewiadoma. Like bottom to top, just try and ride everyone off your wheel. But in this case, it didn't work because people are on your wheel, and like you said, you're basically leading them out. So Lou Bates with that strategy, at that point, I think watching it, I'm like, she wasn't going to win. Then you had Fura, who, like, it's so true. I did a video actually years ago, and the draft was different, but it was similar. On a hill, as a teammate, you can back off the wheel and create a gap, just like you can in real life. Like, you leave a gap, and then the person behind you not only has a gap now to get across, but they have to get past that rider. And I think that's what you're saying you saw with Gabby, is that little kick that Kristen did just got her ahead of Gabby enough that Gabby then had to get through Kristen and up to Fura. And by the time she did that, I mean, she was riding like 8.6 watts there for like a long time. And it comes to a sprint and she's gassed, and Fura's been sitting on Bates's wheel the whole time. Like a clean, I'd call it like a clean wheel, you know, just sat in this draft. I mean, looking at their numbers too, I got to say, like, it's not as though Fura was sitting there doing 5 watts a kg in that draft.
Look, like, she was I just got to mention though, and again, this is 100% like, this is coach, husband, like what could have, all that coming out, right? But like orange numbers, look at how long the orange numbers are from Gabby here, right? Yeah. And Fur wasn't, and that was for a little while actually to get across. Like the first person point of view gives you a really good idea of 9 watts per kilogram this whole time to come across. Like, that's how important positioning is now. And this is also just to speak to how important positioning now is at this point. Because that 9 watts per kilogram, that's what Fur does when she goes to kick. And Gabby's actually holding 8.6 to 9, but just doesn't have the wheel. So it's like position is so incredibly key now. The dynamics, it does happen so fast. But if you can read the room and read what's happening around you at the right times, you can fight in the right ways at this point to pick up on those things. But it takes experience and timing and all the kind of stuff you'd see in real life racing that most people would never expect would be in Zwift.
But kudos to 24, because and maybe Josh can comment on this YouTube video later. But if that was actually what Kristen was doing, like if that was a legit, like, I'm dropping your wheel to drop Gabby off, like behind, that she can't catch up. I mean, that's using the new dynamics like perfectly. And I know last week we talked about Liz Van Houweling and how well she did that. This shows that kind of like, if that is actually what happened, that is very precise Zwiftcraft for a teammate that worked, even though Gabby, looking at those numbers, if it was on a clean wheel, probably could have had it, right? So it is what kind of makes it's exciting with the new dynamics, because this, like, it makes it fun to watch. It's sort of like, it's not just like, I remember maybe Grand Prix like 18 months ago when the dynamics weren't there and we had to do a race up this, and it's just like, who can put out the most power? Like, it's kind of boring because it's like, oh well, I did this watts per kg, so I won. Whereas this is like, I did this and it was higher and I still didn't win because of dynamics. So I think it's awesome.
Totally. But at the same time, it isn't so much that it isn't, they've hit a really good middle ground, right? Where it isn't so much gamification and so much knowing just how to position and all that, that you aren't completely rewarded for amazing prowess. It actually feels very close to that in real life 1% to 2% that you get just from playing the game correctly.
Yeah, it's that kind of, I would say it's that difference where you watch in real life racing, and if you know it, you'll go, oh, they just let that wheel go. Like, and you go, oh, that's great teamwork. But if it's someone who doesn't know bike racing, they're like, oh, that person dropped. And you're like, oh, yes, but it's for a reason, you know? So I think, it struck a really good balance. And I've got to say, like, riding, I mean, I wasn't in that last group that you were showing there at the end, but like you said, I was very focused in that race, and you had to be, to make sure that you're on the right side of anything that was happening. And so much of that was down to being on the right wheel. And I know we've talked about that a lot in races. And so I would try and find wheels that I knew would make the break, and just make sure in certain like key moments that I was just stuck to them, that I was like focused, making sure I was there. Because a few times in ZRL now, I've lost a wheel, and then it's gone. Like what you saw with Gabby, it's just gone. It's very hard to go get it again. So I'm quite liking the focus.
One thing, some of those that weren't involved at the front, Mika Soderstrom would definitely be one. I'm not sure where did Liz end up on the day. Liz was a little bit off the back there. Liz Gallegos, Koistinen. I mean, there was a major positioning thing as well at the bottom, which we saw also in the men's race. That, I mean, obviously Neil Freyet, I mean, the timing that he had with that kick at the bottom, just amazing knowledge of the kind of speed that you could take with a huge, that burst of speed he took. It was actually, he might have been watching some of the things I was talking about. I'm not positive if he just went and did a course recon and noticed that there's a negative 2% gradient, 1% to 2% gradient on the bridge entering the KOM. And you can actually kick there and then take that speed with a feather power up, boom, right on into that steepest part. Oh. And that is what gave him that escape, as well as the ability to catch Tugels and go right by him, actually. So now obviously he had double kicks, like to be able to kick 13 watts per kilogram, 11 watts per kilogram, and then be able to hold the kind of effort that he was able to hold all the way line is also the reward that he was able to get there. But that bottom to top effort from Freyet also was a tactical use of momentum and speed to distance himself from everybody else in a way that they just weren't going to get that free speed any longer, because they didn't use that section of course the way that he did. It was gone already. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Can I just ask, so who is this guy? Like, I've never heard.
Second place overall at U.S. National Championships. He's Echelon Racing League. I think he won the Echelon Racing League. So he's mainly a America's Echelon Racing League, U.S. National Championships. This past year is where he's really showed up. He won in a similar fashion on the Innsbruck KOM, actually, in Echelon Racing League. Held on until the end, and then kicked over the top in a crazy effort from an over VO2 or over threshold type effort into a VO2 max / sprint to finish it off and win against some of the best Americas, actually.
Is he on a team? Like, is he on a...
Velocio is who he was rating. I think he was rating for Velocio Restart. Oh man, they're all gonna hate, like, not hate me, but be like, Nathan, how? But like, I feel like he's swapped. It looks like his jersey's
Velocio. Yeah. I was just interested because I was sort of like, oh, that's not a name I have sort of heard banded around GP like Grand Prix that much.
No, he
So,
hasn't been very involved there, but ERL definitely was his focus. I think he came in a little late to be on a team specific to ZGP type stuff, or maybe was busy at that time of day, but had the weekends to race. And he was actually racing from live from the Metier, actually, in Seattle. That's where he was. Yeah, he was showing up there and racing there a lot of times live there in their Zwift setup, where they have like a Zwift pain cave where we've done some broadcasts from, actually. So very cool.
So what is super interesting is the overall standings after now the sprint and the epic. Have you seen this? Like, because you kind of forget that this is points gathered from each one.
Do you have them? Do you have them somewhere?
Yeah. Yep. I do have them. Yeah. So I've got, I mean, this is off Zwift Insider.
Okay.
So men's standings after the Epic Championships. We've got Josh Harris leading with 192
Oh, yeah,
points.
that's right. I don't know if you can catch him now. I don't know. Like, Josh Harris is such a good climber. He's not the best climber, but the guy can pull a top 10. Right?
Yeah.
So,
because I'm looking at this top 10 and I'm thinking, I mean, I don't know the men's racing as well, but I'm not seeing like a rider who I go, oh no, they're going to totally do the Alp fast. Like there's Josh in first, Thomas Thrall in second, but he's like 4 points behind, equal with Bart van der Eekhout. He's equal to that. Jonas Randrop Kidling, who's equal with Vidar Mill, then Freddie Overt, Zachner, Teppo, Lorio, Brian Duffy, James Barnes. So
okay, so I need to take a look. The results, here's the standings. Okay, I'm taking a look at the standings here real quickly. So you named some names though. Can anyone in there just outright whoop him and put enough people between him at 192? I mean, Josh has to have now Thomas Thrall can climb. Thrall, if he's got a good day, if he's got to have a really good day though up against Harris. I mean, something.
But he's got to have a great day,
and Harris has a bum.
He's got to have a bad day. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's where it's at. I don't know about Bart van der Eekhout. He may be able to pull something off. Keating, Mail, see, all of them have. It's one of those situations where Harris is the better of all of them. I think when it comes to climbing. And could at least match them to be right around them. And they would have to beat him by like 5 places or something. And so Harris can just mark them and make sure that they don't get anywhere and then beat them at the end. Like don't let it's total GC battling kind of a thing. You mark these ones and you make sure they don't beat you and you beat them at the end. And then whatever. Now maybe Harris wants to go for an all out win. But I mean, when Tugels shows up and a couple others that can just climb like monsters and there's $7,000 at the top, I don't know if you're going to be able to handle that, but we'll see.
Yeah. And then I just want to talk about the women's as well, because that's looking interesting. I mean, obviously Catherine Fuhr is at the top with 200, max points, 200 points, but 5 points back equal is Gabriela Guerra and Mika Soderstrom. 4th is Lou Bates, 5th, Kristen Kolczynski, 6th, Liz Van Houweling, Emma Belforth, 7th, Proust Malene, 8th, Amina Kostanen in 9th, and Elise Gallegos in 10th. Now, what I think is interesting about this is that you've got to look at, I saw her out there racing that second one. She's won up the Alp before. First, there's Laura Semek, who we know is a really good climber. But who's the one? I'm not seeing her on the results actually right now. That won it during Grand Prix. She won it by a lot. Yeah. Sandrine Etienne. So I can't actually see her. I swear I saw her out.
She was, and I think there was a heart rate monitor issue and ended up getting pulled from the first, and then ended up not racing the second. But I think she'll probably show up for the climb. I'd be really surprised if she didn't show up to try and win the climb or get a top 3 with the cash that's on offer.
Which will actually be good for Gabby and Mika because they'll want someone to go out and win, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and Mika can climb pretty well, I think. I think she's a pretty good climber.
Catherine Fuhr, what's her climbing? I know she said
No,
she
we
wasn't a
don't
good
know.
climber, but she's
We
also
don't know. Like her best ever, I think, is within striking range of keeping the points. So like this is a battle. There's a battle where she's going to
Mm,
be doing everything she can to be within enough people or win outright. I don't know. Like maybe she has an amazing day. I don't know. Like I'm not sure. Her absolute best ever up the Alp is not in line with Kolchinsky or Guerra or Etienne or any of or a lot of the others, but I think that she can shoot for within 5 places and try and win the overall still. So there's still everything on the line here, and motivation of the ladies out there to show up and be in the race too is like, you know, there's a lot of games that can be played here too, like alliances and all kinds of stuff. Who knows?
mm-hmm. Might be some private chats going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That is one thing though, I gotta say, and there's been a lot of community messages from the elites, and I'm not gonna hammer on this one too much, but a lot of the elites have said that they're not motivated to show up because of the all one takes all, especially in the overall. Like in the other ones, top 3, whatever, okay. Even there, I think there'd be more motivation if it went further down. But like in the final overall, there would be a lot more motivation to show up for everyone in the top 20 if it went out to the top 10, because you could show up and have a good race, and then, or someone has a bad race and you could get something out of showing up for the last race.
I think I was telling you pre-show last week, I think a good model that I see in triathlon is the PTO, so the Professional Triathlon Organization, and they do a payout based on ranking. So in future years, if Zwift saw this, and it's kind of how I see it, like I go, oh, this is a great way to see where you're ranked in elite riders, because it's not a team competition. You can race into a ranking, right? And then maybe they just say, like, look, there's a winner take all, but we're going to pay out something to the top 20 as a ranking bonus, you know? So then there would be, like, if you're sitting in 25th, you're going to go, oh, well, what can I lose? Like, I may as well go do it. I could get $300, you know? So it will, and I think they might have seen that from the preems, the degree of motivation some people have when there's a bit more on the line, right? Like it's sort of, I think like this year's been great to test it out. I wonder if is this going to take over Grand Prix, do you think? Like this sort of
I think it
individual
should.
style competition?
I think it should.
Yeah, why do you think?
I think that the more power you give to individuals, because cycling is such an individual sport, as far as the like the power and the onus and the responsibility of and then they are the thing in which the focus is on, that then the teams have to vie for. That then when the teams have to vie for them, then more benefit has to come to and the team doesn't need as much support until the sport is established, and the support naturally comes from the athletes already having a presence. So like when you focus it all on the individual athlete and that they have the value all within them and the structure is all about building them up, then the entirety of the sport will benefit more, I think, from that. That's my take on that. And the other side of it, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say on the ranking thing there, I agree 100%. And I don't think it has to be flashy. I think the fact that somebody could show up and race for like a few weeks and feel like they got something out of it for $100, 200, 300, 500, 1,000, maybe for the top ranked, or maybe a little bit more, you know, like, I don't think it has to be flashy. I think that people will then at least be like, cool, this was for something. And like, you know what I mean? Like there's at least something that's coming out of this. Isn't about making a living necessarily, but at least it's something, and you got to start somewhere and grow it from there. So go ahead though. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, I think I'm personally enjoying watching and being involved in this more than the Grand Prix racing. I think, like you said, I mean, I enjoy watching in real life cycle racing. I don't want to say that they're similar, but I was thinking about why I enjoy them, and it's because it's individual but with really nuanced team dynamics. And I think that's what can come out in this racing. So it's not forcing team dynamics. It's sort of like now, looking forward to the last race, you've got Kristen Kolczynski in fifth, her teammates in first. Like, Kristen could just blow up the bottom part of the climb to mess with everyone, right? And I just think there's like the nuance there. Whereas when it's just the pure Grand Prix team thing, it just doesn't kind of, it's more like in your face team racing. Whereas I think this is just quite enjoyable to watch. And, I did speculate at the start, like, would there be any team component here? And yes, there is, but it's a bit understated. And I kind of like it. And I enjoy individual racing a little bit more, I think. I don't know about personally, like I love ZRL. So personally, I'm not sure. I still really like the team stuff, but watching it, the individual stuff is a bit more gripping.
I think you would like ZRL even more if there were, this is my take. I don't want to speak completely for you, but my guess is that if there were more individual incentives that happen to that the benefit of the team is a secondary to the individual, but it still does that thing for the team and it's a team thing. But I just think that bike racing, when you watch it and how it makes sense even for the individual's experience, that like I'm doing something for my effort right now and my effort means a whole lot, but it's also a part of the team. I think that the reality of the personal individual effort is it's just primary in bike racing in some ways. The only place I think that doesn't exist, and it's because racing a bike is about producing speed individually. The only place that doesn't exist and the full team aspect thing can come out is the production of speed as a team of individuals trying to produce the TTT. And that's why the TTT is so successful, is because the production of speed as a team is the thing. Right. And so I think otherwise, and I think there's a technical reason for what you said about you're just finding that enjoyment. I actually think there's a way it works that is the reason why bike racing ends up being that way with individual efforts.
Yeah, it's probably similar to like, I don't enjoy watching TTTs, but I quite enjoy doing them in Zwift. I think ZRL, if we look at that, has hit a real sweet spot adding in the scratch races, because with the scratch race, it's a mix of the two. Like the best result for the team is you performing the best as an individual, because all the points are on the finish line. Whereas when it's the points racing, you could come 20th, but have gained a ton of FTS points at some segments along the way and be the highest point scorer for your team. But individually, results-wise, it was kind of like a bit ho-hum.
Yeah. Hey, one last thing on here then with the Zwift games happening this weekend, men's racing on Saturday, women's racing on Sunday. What's funny is like, because of the pressure that's come into this race, usually watching an Alp race would be like, but it's like, this is going to be exciting. And what's funny is in the Zwift games, not to play it down, that was slightly exciting too, but like, there were all these points out on the race that I don't think it's going to make it as exciting as the build up to this one, even though it's like there's no sections that now if there were some preems out there, it might be kind of cool, but they'd probably just be won by a few separate people that would just walk away. So whatever, like, but this is totally different without any sections to win extra points, yet feels more exciting.
I think so. I think because it's so close at the top and it can will some teams work together? I hope so. I'm really looking at Kristen and Catherine here with what they can do. Because if they want Catherine to win, they're going to need Kristen to do something, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I don't know, Ashley Moomin-Passio was said to be showing up. I don't know if she's going to make the start line any longer. It'll be interesting to see if that ends up playing out, because she would be a definite favorite to the top of the climb. It'd be interesting to see an in real life pro of that level up against, that's a pure climber in real life pro up against the Zwifters. It'd be really cool. On the men's side of things, Harris is a shoe-in at this point. I'm like kicking myself for not making him my pick. for the overall, actually. Like, duh, Nathan, what is going on there? But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Everybody, you want to check it out, obviously, this weekend. And not going to go with any... I don't want to do any predictions. Like,
you're not going to pick?
Who's going to win
I'll
off
do
the
that.
top?
How about...
I think Leonard Tugels is going to win. I think what he did at Zwift Grand Prix, I don't know if he can be beat. Like, we'll see. And I don't think Plantero... Well, is Plantero going to show up? If Plantero shows up, it'll be a Tugels versus Plantero to the top, most likely. Oh, Martins is the one who's not showing up. Martins is not showing up, and he actually won, so he's not there. From what I know, he didn't show up the last couple of... So I think he may be out. I'm not positive, but from what I remember on the start list. Now, start lists have changed here and there throughout the entirety of the Zwift game, so maybe suddenly there'll be some new additions. We'll find out here, but I think Tugels, that's my pick to the line for the men.
Okay. I'll go the women then. I'm going to pick Kristen Kolczynski to win because I think she did not like her performance in the Grand Prix where they did this. And I think she's gone, this is my comeback on the climb. She's kind of known as a climber, and I know in real life she's done some really great climbs. So I think this is the one that she's focused on. And I think for her team, that's probably the best thing that she can do as well, is take max points. I'm sorry, off Gabby. Like, that's what she'll be planning to do, I'm guessing. And Mika as well, because they're tied. And dark horse, well, it's not a dark horse in that if she turns up, I think she'll win. But I want her to turn up, is Ashley Moolman-Passio. I want to see the pro athlete versus the esport athlete showdown.
It'd be good. That'd be really good. 100%. Well, all right. So then let's go into our next topic. Best in game. Well, okay. Do you want best in game economy? We'll do that next, because first we'll hype up the big spin, which then launched this idea that I had about what's going on with economies in game. But the big spin, we called it the slot machine at this point. And that's why you see the little slot machine in the graphic here, because like the other day I'm sitting, if you didn't see my Instagram post, I'm sitting here like hanging out, whatever, chatting with Gabby about something. And then like all of a sudden I see her messing with the game real quick. I'm like, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden she's like, boom, logs in and lands literally on the downhill on Suki's playground in the B category of the first stage of the big spin, and crosses the line with 0 time, 0 effort, no watts produced, and gets another spin. I was like, you scammer, what is going on here? And
how did she do that?
Well, she just late joined. She late joined.
Oh, okay.
And she had, I think, I'm not sure if she had already done one, but then I was like, wait a second. How many spins can I get? So if you race the big spin, shorter one, to the line, and you get done as quickly as you can, depending on, it's a little bit of a dice roll, it's a little bit of a slot machine. You pull the jump back in late join, but if you get done within a half hour, the more time you have before you get done, the more chances you get to get back in, and depending on where it drops you, get to the line quick and then get back in and then get to the line quick and spin over and over. And then if you do it, and then you have to time your last one just enough that you can get out and get into the A1, because the A1 will not be at finished yet. And then you could then finish and then you can go finish the A1, but you have a half-hour window. So within that half-hour window, you can get as many as you possibly can. So I got 3 spins last night in the first stage. The most I think I've gotten so far, I could have got 4, but I timed something wrong, where I did 2 Bs and then I got an A spin at the end. And then you're just like racing the whole time, but it's a race for spins. It's not other people. You're just like, hey, work with me. Did you know? Come on. And then everyone starts working with you because they figure out that they can get extra spins. And now there's like a trend starting. I saw somebody even said, somebody was like, this is like the celebrity ride, because it was like Llama was there, somebody else was a check mark, there were these other pros, some Zwift HQ people, and no joke, people were suddenly joining in the last 3K, and I noticed it was all the same names I'm noticing are joining in the last 2 to 3K, and I'm like, we started a trend, like, here we go.
Oh my God. Of course you found the hack, right? I can't believe it. I haven't even done one big spin yet, and you've already found a hack. So, oh my gosh. But what have you
Yeah.
unlocked?
What have I unlocked? So what have I got so far? So I've got the glasses 2 times. I've got the socks 2 times. I've got the headphones and nothing else. That's what I've gotten so far. I've gotten I wish I had the jersey. I was actually gonna do, what time is it? I could just show you guys how to do it right now. Nope, it's not. So there's a timing for it too. You're like, because they start at a certain time, if you're watching the clock, you're like, oh yeah, at my time, it's always like 40 past the hour, you start joining, or 35 past the hour, you start joining, and it'll put you at the right spot. And then you can like jump on your bike real quick and do a couple I always call it sock spinning, because like I'm just in my socks still. God. I don't have to do anything.
I cannot believe that. You haven't got the tri bike yet, though. The tri.
No,
wheels.
Okay. You want to leave? Like, what's going on here with the tri spokes? I mean, come on, triathlon people. I hear that they're not all that great, except for their looks.
Yeah, I mean, it is the garage pick this week, so I'll jump into that now. Like, so disappointing. They look amazing, like, I think, on the bike. Like, they look so good. They're the rainbow tri-spoke at the front, and then the disc wheel at the back. Looks great. They are like 2 minutes slower in Eric's speed tests. He said in his speed tests, it's literally better to ride on a gravel bike than use these, which is so incredibly disappointing. Like, they should be faster than that. I'm hoping it's a glitch that they'll fix. Otherwise, like, literally you can only use them for Zwift games where all the equipment is neutralized.
Oh, man. I mean, that's really slow.
I know, right?
Slower than gravel bikes?
I know. But they shouldn't be, right? They're a disc wheel. Like, they're still fast. I know they're retro.
How could they be that slow? I mean, that's really slow. All right. Here's a great meme, and I have to shout out to one of my friends in real life name. I just know him as Yay Boy. Which is like, come on.
Yay Boy.
Oh man. But in my Discord, he came in, and I actually saw it from Llama first, from GP Llama first, but he found it over on Reddit. And from what I was told, my buddy Yaya Boy from Twitch chat made this meme, and it kind of got a little bit popular over at the Zwift Reddit. But question mark. Now, whether or not this is actually how things are playing out is a good question, because from what I heard, the Zwift games, not just what I heard, this is verified information from Zwift, 100,000 people have participated as of this weekend, actually, during the Epic race in the Zwift games. So I don't know if this is actually true, but it's hilarious, because I wouldn't be surprised, though, unless the pickup from the Zwift games in the general population is actually that big. Like, that would be kind of crazy, but it's awesome if it is from my perspective. But I have a feeling that the Big Spin might overtake Zwift games. But Zwift games, I mean, the numbers have been crazy. I mean, 1,500 people in single events. That's not something you usually see. Those are numbers that are off the charts from a purely Zwifting racing point of view. We'll see how the Big Spin does. Both of them, though, regardless of their competition between each other, this kind of competition for Zwift is really, really good. Because it just means that March is absolutely popping off when it comes to Zwifting, which is not usually what you see coming into this time of year.
Yeah, and I think maybe if I look at like the next year's kind of season, if the Zwift Games was going to replace GP, you could have Zwift Games kind of running over 5 or 6 weekends for the elites, and then those weeks during the busy kind of December, January esport time. And then you could come into like a Big Spin fun thing at the time they've got now, like March, April, where you're sort of like, oh, maybe I should go outside. Oh, wait, I'll just do my recovery ride here because I can like get a few cool Big spins, you know? And it's, I think, like I said last week, I love it because it's pulling in the gaming part of Zwift, which is super fun. Like it's, I like anything in Zwift that becomes a bit more gamified. So I think it's good. Although I think that the tri-wheels need to be like way faster.
Now, I had this really interesting conversation in game, actually, with a user And this is definitely, though, a little bit of a gripe. I'm just going to say that I'm on messages right now, and the messages do not live on, and they are gone forever. So without a
Oh.
screenshot, I can't talk about this great conversation that we had. But essentially, what it came up to was economy. Economy started getting talked about, and it was already on my mind about economy because what's interesting is that I don't know if in the like business sphere and product sphere of indoor cycling virtual platform products that they're thinking about each other in this way necessarily. That Big Spin is directly related to recent My Whoosh announcements in any way whatsoever, but they're both kind of heading in a similar direction in this area, at least it seems like, which is interesting. And is there going to be a little bit of a battle going on in the product space right now of who makes the best in-game economy? Because My Whoosh just like said in a post, right here, it says, gain deeper insights into your performance, track your products over time, and challenge yourself with comparative metrics. Explore further by logging in a profile. And then, but okay, no, that's not the one I'm looking for. But so there, something along those, but there was another one that said, here it is, economy achievement. So this is it. Sorry about that, guys. So experience the added fun, economy, achievements, and trophies. Share your thoughts in the comments on the exciting features. And what it shows is a achievement opening up. And then this is behind Zwift, actually. This Zwift already has this, but and then after you get the achievement, some sort of thing that looks like drops, but it's more of a currency looking thing pops in, and then you get this currency, and then it shows at the top of this person's avatar garage like 465,000 of whatever this currency is, and then they're purchasing something with it. So it's essentially like the same things as what drops are. But you know, we talked about this a little bit last week, like, and in other weeks, like other games that are free to play, like Apex, there you don't have to pay anything to play it. But so how are they surviving? It's all off of an in-game economy, the whole thing. And so, like, I'm not saying that Zwift or My Whoosh should necessarily be selling things in game. Maybe down the road things will get that lucrative, that there's that much value that people would actually start buying something. But there is buying that happens with a subscription and time given to a platform, though, and the better economy will make that platform more attractive. And the work that we're currently putting into these current products on Zwift seem to have a really high inflation rate. Like, right? So, and we talked about this a little bit in pre-production, and you had a lot to say. The moment I brought up inflation, you had a lot to say actually about, wait a second. My drops don't feel like they're worth very much right now. And how can this be related back to the value I seem to have around spinning this thing in game and getting these things? Like, products and economy have to make a little bit more sense. And I said, well, Zwift haven't really done anything with that. Like, and no offense, I'm sorry, but like, it kind of was like a gigantic bank was opened up and like, whoa, all this money was flowing. It's like, well, we got all this money and nowhere to go with it. So like, whatever, I can't really buy anything. So how do you create that value proposition?
Yeah, it's so the drops in Zwift, which this is what we talked about pre-show, was that when you're at a lower level and you're coming through, the drops are really important because you don't have many of them. And if you want to get that better bike that you've leveled up to, you have to buy it. Like, you've got to go buy the bike. And often I'd be like, oh, my drops have gone to like 0. I need to like keep riding so I can afford that next bike when it gets unlocked. And then it kind of is almost like whatever level it is that you get your specialized S-Works, from that point on, you really don't need to buy anything. And so your drops just accumulate. And I'm at like 8 million drops now. And then all the things I want are not related to drops at all. It's a meaningless currency now. So either they need to just get rid of it or figure out a way that you can use the currency and it can be motivating again, because you get free stuff in the big spin. It spins around and you get cool stuff. It's got nothing to do with my drops. You get your Millenstein wheels by going top of Alp to Zwift. and it spins around and you get something. You get your jerseys when you level up. It's got nothing to do with your drops. You don't have to buy a jersey. So then why are they there? Like, what's the point here? And you can see MyWoosh they've brought out their economy with this gold coin, which is essentially the drop system that Zwift has. But yeah, like we talked about, the drop system has become so overly inflated, it's just meaningless and you can't buy anything. But I don't know what the solution is. Like, I don't know whether you get rid of it or you find a cool way that you can spend drops. I think the problem that Zwift got into a little bit was that if they make it so that you've got to have heaps of drops all the way through, it might turn off the general participant who just wants instant gratification. So I don't know. What do you think?
Two things that are value propositions, if we keep it really simple: go faster, look cooler. Okay. So those are the two main value propositions, I think, is go faster and look cooler. And I don't think you can really go wrong with more look cooler. Like, I don't think and whatever that might be, whatever way that you present that, and in whatever way you associate it with brands or people or groups or exclusivity in some sort of way that has you got to have the right demand to the right amount of scarcity. And so you have to create certain amounts of scarcity without too much scarcity, right? And so you have to have a little bit more. And this is a lot of work. Huge amounts of resources, and hopefully the big spin and some competition show that, hey, in-game economy is pretty important, actually, which is what this podcast started off of, actually, in some ways, is the fashion show.
Fashion.
So yeah, right. And so I think you have that broad area, less broad, really, really exclusive, but at the same time, the promotion of the really exclusive, and that the really exclusive looks like a freaking phoenix rising from the ashes, right? Like, whoa.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And so that person, through all of their Zwifting, massive hours, earned that. And then but then also the go faster side of things, in the gamified experience, you can do that up to a point that's really well organized, that is just enough within the more casual space, I think. In the straight up full-on competitive space, what you're signing up for in that space, I think that the neutralization is not the worst idea, or in some sort of way, all availability, I think, is another good idea. That when you get into high competitive elite space where there's cash on the line and this real professional esports starts to evolve and get real, I think in that space, you either open up the garage completely when you enter that. So then you have a new space you walk into where everything is available to you 100%, and it all makes sense. That's another really complicated thing as well that needs resources, because it all has to have parity depending on what you walk into. And it can't be a random kind of, I feel this way numbered. You have to have all the equations worked out between all the gear. In Apex, or I'm just going to talk Apex because it's what I've played in the last couple of years in a competitive space. One or 2 points in a bullet damage change on one gun completely changes the meta, right? So that you're only using that gun and it might get overpowered, and then everybody goes for that. You know what I mean? So you have to have a balance within that competitive space. So then right now the solution is just neutralize it all. Right, I
would say I think that's a valid solution.
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying it's a great solution for a few years right now, until we can figure out maybe a better, well worked out equation across the balances that are needed across all the bikes in a highly competitive space. Because I'm cool with a well done meta that's really been thought through about how all the bikes fit. I'm not that cool with I just kind of felt like that bike. You know what I mean? Just kind of throwing it amongst the pigeons and see what happens. And there's a cat that just goes blah, and kills everybody.
I mean, how far? I just want to say one point. Kevin Osborne brought up in chat that bike skins would be a good way to do this. Now that would be so if you just had all neutralized bikes, but your drops brought you customized ability over those bikes, that'd be cool. So you have like the specialized S Works, the general, one that you can get, but then you can spend some drops and have that customized in a way you want it. Now that would be cool. I'm just thinking, like, how far could you take the drops economy in Zwift? Is there a point where you could use these drops in a legitimate way in game, like an entry fee? Like, hey, if you want to do this racing, it's going to cost you 100,000 drops. Or you want to go ride that new road,
That's a really good, Anna. That is a really good idea. That's like, but then, okay, there's a couple different ways you can play that out too. Like economies that are like based on, because even in Apex, they have separate currencies and it gets a little confusing to me because I'm not that committed to playing that game, but they do different things. And like, well, you've done enough chasing tour races, so you can now enter at this level. So you now can enter this level and you have to pay something to be a part of it. And then a DQ means a lot more because you just spent time on entering and you paid for it with something that really matters to you, but it's not pure. It's not cash. It is. It's a fiat currency that's just virtual. It is still a currency though, because you put work into getting it and then you spent it on, and you can actually have currencies across all kinds of orgs that show that they have value because people are putting work into being a part of them. I don't know if we're at that point to be able to do that, but at least using the drops that we have right now to enter at a certain competitive level. And then we don't have that thing where they're like, well, we don't want people paying extra to get in. Well, you just use the in-game currency to do that. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I'd kind of thought of it because with WTRL, I know when we have new teammates joining, they have to do a minimum of 3 races. And I'm kind of like, well, instead of a minimum of 3 races, just have a drops fee that they have to pay. Like treat it like a real currency somehow. But I don't know how that would work, but that would be a useful way to use drops.
There's a way to do it that also gets verification happening too. Like you can only earn this racing currency through doing races, and then you earn racing currency and then you go and use your racing currency.
Yeah. So the other one I thought was
idea.
Like
that's a super, I can't get over how super solid idea that is, Anna. Like talk about creating value in that is intuitive to the space that you're talking about. That's pretty awesome.
Well, I'll have the other one, which won't be as a good an idea, but I still like it. Is like when how they've got all the different areas, you've got like Makuri, parts of Makuri, different places. You get the different jerseys in the big spin, depending on the world. It would actually be cool to, when you're riding, say, into the jungle or like into the new roads that they pulled up, the coastal road, you could like just ride into a shop area and then just like it takes you to a virtual shop and you go, everything in that virtual shop is themed for that area. So, they're talking about bike skins and jerseys. And so instead of level unlocks, you go in and go, ooh, that jersey is like 500 drops. That's cool. I quite like that one because there's some of the jerseys. I just saw the guy who won the elite men's one. He had like the backpacker bike packing hat on, which I don't really like, but I know it's a high level. Like there's a few of the level unlocks. I'm like, I could do without that in my garage. But this one instead is like, hey, there's a new area open. Go and see if it has a shop, and
you can go hang out in the shop. Yeah, and buy stuff from the shop. That's a cool. I think that's a pretty cool idea. Yeah, on that whole like the ability. The other thing is like, should we have the ability to trade? And that's a whole nother ball of wax. But I mean, it's popular in other games. Now those are MMOs that are, and Zwift is kind of this in between. It's an MMO. It's interesting because of the amount of events that then take place also in the MMO. And it's not just pure like open world or anything like that, but there's the idea of the currencies that are in that you could then trade for with other riders for those currencies as well and be able to get things. Now, one thing there's the ability to earn those currencies. We're seeing here from Jonathan E actually coming in on chat saying that the only way you can earn those currencies is by using verified sources too, and within certain race organizations. So it's a natural way to create a competitive level without letting go too much. Because one of the chats that came up during that ride today, when the economy conversation was happening, was like, one solution is we need a little bit more John Locke in here. Let it be. Let it go. Create freedom, full capital, and that the race organizers and the community then gains more power. But this is an in-between, because you're giving that currency in some sort of way to the organizers to work with, but then it kind of has to be managed in some ways. Whereas if Zwift don't want to manage it at all, they could just be like, well, go use in real life currency and figure out a way to get people paying an entry fee so that there's value. Because we do need to add value to the races in a certain kind of payment way that gives a risk to getting disqualified and being not
prize money,
all that prize money, all that, exactly, all that kind of stuff that naturally makes it so there's something on the line, so people don't just not show up, so people don't call it just a game, a joke, and people don't have unverified sources in there, and that there's a little bit more work that is required in order for that to actually be managed, either by the community or by Zwift. And when you create that currency and people are hungry for it, I think that will naturally keep people coming back.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a huge amount of opportunity in this space, like massive. If they can, I don't know, maybe spend the esport off season coming up with a new like drops sort of alternative. I think hopefully, like what I'm seeing with My Whoosh and Zwift is that there's a level of competition here now that's making both players better in this market. And hopefully this kind of unveiling of this My Whoosh currency will make Zwift think a bit more about the drops currency that they've currently got, that kind of got released, like you said, and then just has become this overinflated nothing now.
Yeah. 100%. Which takes a ton of work, though. I admit, like everything we just said is Eiffel Tower, Ivory Tower extent, Ivory Tower thinking, big ideas, but you got to implement this stuff, which takes manpower and, lots of planning. And then you mess it up and you get yelled at, and then you do it again and you get yelled at some more.
I'm not saying it's easy. It's just a wish list. We could just sit here and say,
we could just go do it. I'm shooting darts. Are they hitting? I don't know. Oh man. So that's the big spin, current slot machine that brought up the economy. Now, obviously that's not everything to do with the big spin. If you want to do it right now, I think we're still in McCurry. I'm so focused on just doing McCurry right now that I'm not like, the cruiser bike though also got some review. You want to talk about that real quick? The aero flat rolling performance. It did. The Atomic Cruiser may look like a super aero rocket ship, but unfortunately it's not. Its time of the 51:43 means is slower than every other road frame in game, apart from the mighty Buffalo Farad. It is 21 seconds slower than our baseline Zwift aero frame and 29 seconds slower than the fastest frames in game on Tempest Fugit. So if you throw that out there, you can probably put the spoke, the tri-spoke on there too. You'd have essentially the slowest thing that could ever exist in Zwift.
This could start the race to the back competition where you just use your slowest equipment and then see who's the slowest in a sprint. I think this absolutely lends to the discussion we've had of neutralize everything.
Because then I hate that I'm saying that
because then you can use it, right? It'd be so good. I used to love picking everything. It goes back to our last discussion, but I used to spend so long picking before like Premier League, so that's like 4 years ago or something, the best bike for the course with the best wheels and the best this and the best that. And now there's none of that. It's like there's one wheel set, there's one bike frame that's usually going to be the best. So just go with that.
Yeah,
pretty
because
much
there
every
hasn't
time.
been any balancing changes in game. There's been no focus on that. That's what you end up with, and then it means nothing anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why I say
Yeah.
it takes
Just-
effort and time and changes. You have to kind of play with that meta. And this is what Hearthstone is built on. When it comes to Hearthstone, like the entire thing is a random number generator that has human skill involved in a poker-like way, where if you build the right deck, you're going to come out on top on chance. So the top players, they win 60% plus of the time. But right around there, they're not winning all the time once they get to the top. And so it relates to this because now that's not how obviously it works in performance-based, places, but you have this situation where they're always balancing it out. So you have to change your decks in order to come up. And then when there's they have releases with all new cards, and then like they eliminate an entire season of cards at one point. They get old enough where they're just like they're grandfathered out. It's like these are no longer going to be used, but this whole set is. And so when it hits that time when those become no longer a part of the meta, and then a new set comes in, all the decks change and everybody does their research about all the balance. And those have probably taken 6 months to a year to come up with all the cards and how they're going to play with all their abilities and all their numbers for how it's going to be well balanced. And there's people just testing that game and playing it over and over and over and over and over again to see what kind of different decks they could be come up with. So that, I'm not looking for that level, Hearthstone level or Magic the Gathering level or whatever, but at the same time, that's super fun and interesting, and people show up to play that. It's funny, Hearthstone are having their 10-year anniversary. I didn't realize, like, same timing as Zwift, actually, right around the same year. I didn't realize I've been playing that game the same amount of time I've been playing Zwift. But so, anyways, just as an idea of, like, if we were going to do that well, we would kind of need that level for it to be interesting. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like you said, it just doesn't mean a whole lot. You just kind of get the best stuff and then you go.
Yeah, so I think Zwift's focus this year on making the pack dynamics really good has been awesome because, like we talked about earlier in the show, that's made a indescribable. I think you called it out as like your best feature from last year was pack dynamics. But yeah, I think this year the sort of the frilly stuff on the side, like customizable stuff, a bit of a way to use your drops. Would be really cool. And I think, I wouldn't be surprised to see it because of the push that might be coming from my whoosh in this space.
I'm so relieved. I have 3 more days. Oh, McCurry Islands is still available for 3 more days. I still can get all of I was like, Jersey, please. Glasses again. Socks again. Come on. Oh, man. I have 10 minutes to do my late join. I've got it up, everybody. Here we go. All right, this is it. I'm just going to show everybody how it even works. Oh, man. And now I'm not going to actually jump into this. I'm going to jump in live here, but I'll show you real quick. So big spin started 21 minutes ago, 264. Here we go. Started 20 minutes ago. Yeah, there's a good amount of people, 427. They're all like this. They all got massive amount of people.
Jeez.
Now, I don't want to join yet because they're only going to be at like probably the 14K marker where that's going to put me. I want to wait a couple of minutes here. And then once it's a little closer to 25, then I can be like, okay, now it's time. It'll probably be with the league group or at least close to. You want to get in on Suki's Playground one? It's really amazing if it gets you on because there's a climb and then there's a downhill in the last 2K. And if you get lucky enough that you hit the right group that's coming over the top of the climbers on the downhill, then you don't even have to jump on the bike. Then you're just like, okay, cool, roll across.
Oh my gosh, I just cannot believe you got a hack for this already. But I like it because I don't know if I can go on the bike. So this might be the only way I'm going to be able to get all of these things and items.
It's the injured Anna hack. That's what we call it. Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
I got to take a look at these other ones, too. Like, Greater London Flat, I don't think you can get away with it on this one really as much as, like, it'll be interesting to see, like, where the finish lines are for these and what you can do with them and how the packs end up playing out because each one's going to have a little bit different of a situation. But next one starts on the 18th of March. So we'll be looking at London at that point. We'll have a whole new set of stuff that we'll be able to get out of London.
Oh, there we go. And what are the makeup days? Do you have that on there?
Makeup events are April 18th to the 14th, events hourly for week 1. And then week 2, April 15th through the 21st, events every 3 hours. So there's a lot of makeup. You got a full month and a half of big spin. I mean, it's needed though. With how many items are out there, you really need that much makeup time, because if you miss anything, give some people some more chances. I think Big Spin might be the most done event out of all events in the history of Zwift campaigns. I would not be surprised.
I'd be interested if we can get those stats, because I would be really interested to know this versus the Tour of Zwift, which I think, or Tour of Watopia, which is usually the highest. I think that'd be good to go. Is Josh Harris riding?
I like it. Yeah, no, I'm bringing this in. I'm bringing this in. Our pick for the men's race is out there giving me, all right, Josh, now you got to win, because we just helped each other out here. So no Caster's curse. He's going to win out there. Loving to see this, as he's current leader of the Zwift games, is now also doing helping me out. He's helping me out with the hack. 2.5 to go. Oh my gosh, he's giving me updates as we go here. I'm loving it.
Oh, I love it. I love that our future Zwift Games winner is just out there hacking the big spin as well. Cares about it, man.
What are you gonna do for the next week? I hear we're gonna be hitting the gym soon. Maybe not yet. You know, one thing though, Anna, is gym work right now, just a little bit, like squats, air squats. What you can do will help you heal quicker. So
yes. Yeah. I might start doing some of that. I need to be able to sleep well, because at the moment I'm
Is there pain right now?
Just when I'm sleeping, it's what's it called? Spasming. Spasming is what it's doing. Hopefully I can just have surgery like ASAP to just fix this so it doesn't pop out again. But yeah, other than that, I've set up a team building TTT every week, and our first one was for tomorrow. So I don't think I'll be doing it, but I might try and get up and DS them. We're going to do our off season kind of every week, WTRL, TTT,
nice.
Just for a bit of fun.
You doing the world champs? Like, are you guys going to focus on that?
I think we will try and do that. Yeah. Well, we're a mix of A's and B's. So it's just kind of pulling everyone together so everyone can meet each other. We've got a new B squad. So it's just, having everyone get comfortable with each other's riding styles and know how to use the Discord technology and stuff. Other than that, I think I'll probably get on this weekend and just chill ride and do a big spin. Here you
go. 2.7. It gave me 2.7 to go. Now I gotta actually pedal my bike over the climb. I'm leaving this and going back in. I'm going back in. I'm gonna see, but that's there it is. I just had to show it live on. There's my 2.5. So I'll go get a spin out of that one.
Oh my god. What are you doing? Just big spinning.
Yeah, and then obviously we got the commentary this weekend. So a lot of prep for that. We're actually doing a lot of thinking about what's next for community coverage across ZCL. So we've got Chasing Tour on the mind. We've got Dirt Series. We obviously have Zwift Racing League finals as well. And then looking forward to the summer. And then, I mean, I was telling Gabby, like, we've been full gas since September. I mean, full noise, just as you would say, working like mad through the Zwift season. So there's also just a little bit of like, okay, now what's next? And like planning going on and stuff. So it's kind of that time of year too, after we get through March and April, I think, looking forward to the Zwift Racing League finals, a little bit of coverage through the spring classics, alongside of stuff that people are doing in Zwift with that. And then planning, about what does all of the ZCL stuff look like, and, what advancements can we make? How can we do better? What did we do successfully? And obviously continue on with the podcast. So that's it's kind of that time of year in a little ways. At least it's looking forward to that time of year outside of obviously the stuff that we're doing for March and April. So yeah, that's what's up with me as far as where my headspace is at. Big spin. And I need to do the epic. I didn't do the epic. So I'll hopefully get the climb done, and then this weekend. After I didn't do the epic this past weekend, I just was so done after all the commentary, and just got a couple of rides in that at least got some fitness held on to rather than pushing it too far. But yeah, I might do the epic climb this weekend, and then that's about it. And then look forward to finding a makeup for the actual epic race stage number. What is that? Stage number 3, right? Yeah, it was stage number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's gonna be it from us, everybody. As always, this is a podcast. You can download the audio version. Just as a reminder, zwiftcommunitylive.com/podcast or anywhere that you do download your podcast by searching the Wrap and Zwift. It should show up real quickly. If you haven't done so already, please head on over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. Comment, like, do all that fun stuff. If you're watching anywhere else, that's the main place we're focused. We just popped over 14,000 subscribers over there. Thank you so much. And I was just thinking right before going live today, how thankful I am for all of this. So thank you so much, everybody, and especially Anna as well, for this podcast. It's been so much fun and everything that we do here at ZCL. So just a huge thank you to everybody for getting us over that goal, and really excited to see where this community is going outside of that. And from Anna and I just want to say appreciate. I think Anna feels the same way, right, Anna? Don't want to speak for you, but
Oh no, I hate everybody.
yeah, of course.
I'm joking. No, of course. No, I love it. And I love all the sort of DMs people send me afterwards, like thanking us. And I particularly have a passion for shining a light on the women's side of this great sport. And yeah, so absolutely echo your appreciation for everybody and yourself, Nathan, who actually makes this all possible to get out there.
All right. Well, everybody, we'll see you next week for episode number 87. This has been episode 86. As always, from Anna and I. Right on.